this is the same map a court largely threw out. And it's deficient in all the reasons that Judicial Watch persuaded the court to throw it out. There's another big fight related to elections over gerrymandering. And gerrymandering, or it used to be called gerrymandering. Reagan, by the way, President Reagan hated gerrymandering. And essentially it's a political party who in control of a state who makes the congressional districts as beneficial as possible to the power of the party that's making the call. So Republicans control Texas. They decided to update the congressional map and gerrymander districts in a way that would result in more, essentially Republicans winning because the voters in the districts would be overwhelmingly Republican. It goes on in Democrat states as well, where you have states that have gerrymandered, you know, places like in Massachusetts. I'm just going off the top of my head, so I think Massachusetts has this, where, you know, they got 30–40% of the Republicans in the state. There are no districts represented by Republicans in Congress. That's the result of gerrymandering. Now, people object to it, and rightly so, because they seem abusive sometimes on their face. You know, you get these crazy-looking districts that connect one part of the state with the other part of the state. And it really undermines our system when you have abusive gerrymandering like that. That being said, it's not always illegal. It may be objectionable, but it's the way the system is. If you don't like it, vote in. If you're in Texas, you don't like the Republican-drawn maps, vote in Democrats. You in Massachusetts, you don't like the Democrat-controlled maps, vote in Republicans. But in some states, it is illegal, this illicit gerrymandering. One of those states is in Maryland. And in Maryland, they have only one congressional district that is a Republican district. It's Congressman Andy Harris, who happens to be the current head of the House Freedom Caucus, the most conservative group of House members on the Republican side, at least. And you know, and I'm sure you've been reading the news that the Republicans and Democrats have been gerrymandering various states to try to get a one-up and be sure they're more able to retain, or in the case of Democrats, obtain power in the House and take control of the House. So the Texas added some Republican seats. It looks like in California, they're going to try to add some Democrat seats. Currently, the gerrymandering fights have led to a slight Republican lead, more or less, in terms of getting extra seats. I don't know how that's going to turn out. And Democrats in Maryland are trying to join the fight by getting rid of that one Republican seat. Well, the problem they have is that their plan was already thrown out thanks to a Judicial Watch lawsuit. Now, is it the exact same plan? No. But it's literally 97% of the same plan. Let me explain. Let me go to the Judicial Watch press release. Judicial Watch analysis. Maryland's proposed 2026 congressional map replicates, let's go to the press release, unconstitutional gerrymander previously struck down in Judicial Watch lawsuit. Judicial Watch, we undertook an analysis through our election team. Our election law team found that the proposed 2026 plan recreates the same distorted configuration rejected by Judge Lynn A. Battaglia for Maryland's 1st Congressional District, which shares 97% of the geographic area of the unconstitutional 2021 district. As before, the district again crosses the Chesapeake Bay Bridge to link disparate regions, an arrangement the court previously found unlawful. So what does that mean? So think of, I don't know, you get a map of Maryland. Actually, we have the maps of Maryland. Let's bring up the maps of Maryland here. Give me a minute. Let's get them viewed. Okay. So this is the current Maryland map. Now you see up here, this is what they call the panhandle of Maryland. In theory, it should be a Republican district, but it's essentially Democrat. Republicans haven't been able to get it. And this is the District 1, which is, this is the far right on your page. And so this is the current district. Okay, so this is the district represented by the one quote Republican district in Maryland. Now, the map that was presented in order to erase that district as a Republican district looks like this. And it was rejected by the court. See what they did here? It used to be the map essentially went down straight. But over here is the Chesapeake Bay, essentially, and they bopped over the district across the Chesapeake Bay, which is, I don't know, what is the Chesapeake Bay? Separated by, let's put it this way, it's like being on the other side of the, I'm trying to think of a comparable, it's like going to a different world. One side is Washington, and the other side is called the Eastern Shore, which is a completely different political mindset, mostly Republican. I mean, it's like, you know, essentially D.C., you know, versus Southern Alabama. I mean, I'm exaggerating slightly, but not much. So in order to get Democrats elected, they added this little inlet across the Chesapeake Bay into basically Democrat Maryland. And they rejected, the court rejected it. So you see that? And this is what they proposed. So the court rejected it, said it's unconstitutional. And look at what they did. This is their next game. This is the proposed map. Now I can't get it. Hold on. Same thing. 97% the same map. Old map. Here's the, let me go to the old map. Oh, this is the old map. Now I'm confusing myself. This is the map rejected by the court. There you see the little thing there. And here's the new map that Democrats are proposing. Virtually the same. It's literally 97% the same. And there are other problems. The analysis found that the proposed 26th map is less compact than both prior maps under all three compactness measures relied upon by the court. And compact means, you know, it shouldn't look like a Rorschach test. It should look like something that a human being drew. And there's a compactness requirement in the Maryland Constitution. So that sort of, that right that legislatures have to remake congressional districts under the Constitution can be limited, obviously, by the state's own Constitution. Although that's even debatable, but that's what the law is. Additionally, the proposed redraw substantially increases county and municipal splits compared to the 2022 map that's currently in place. Another factor. So when you draw a map, let's say it's Dallas. If you just draw a map into Dallas or another community and just kind of split it in half and divvy it up, you know, that's frowned upon. When you kind of draw maps that divide communities rather than kind of preserve continuity or contiguity, what is the word? There's a word I'm thinking of, and I can't just quite grasp it. It's probably not a word. That's probably why I'm thinking. That's probably why I can't grasp it. But you get what I mean, don't you? It's like the town shouldn't be split up. It should be in the one congressional district. So people on one side of the town are represented by a congressman, the same congressman on the other side of the town. And then there's the efficiency gap, another technical term. And essentially it determines that we found that the map is more partisan under the efficiency standard, meaning they make it, they get the most value out of Democrat voters in the map. And it shows that it was partisan. And if it's too partisan, it's illegal in Maryland. And it looks like they were also up in Baltimore, which is heavily black. It looks like a minority generally. They were playing race games up in Baltimore. So there are several reasons why this map should not go anywhere. And I don't know whether it's going to go anywhere in the legislature because even some Democrats don't want to mess with it. But our biggest point is this is the same map a court largely threw out. And it's deficient in all the reasons that Judicial Watch persuaded the court to throw it out. Maryland is currently operating under a congressional map adopted in 2022 following Judicial Watch's successful lawsuit on behalf of 12 registered voters. That suit challenged the state's 2021 redistricting plan as an unconstitutional partisan gerrymander that diluted voters' rights. This is a rerun of the unlawful gerrymander that a court already threw out. Maryland Democrats appear determined to entrench partisan power at the expense of constitutional limits and voters' rights. We are watching these developments closely. You know, this is the problem I have with gerrymandering. And, you know, it doesn't mean that a little bit of gerrymandering is okay, but it's a way, if abused, to rig elections. I mean, essentially, if you use the gerrymandering map to prevent reasonable representation by the other party, it's a kind of abusive. Now, does it mean that it not be used in states where it's allowed to be used? No, it doesn't necessarily mean that. I'm just kind of doing it as like a political person. If I were a Republican or a Democrat in any of these states, you know, I'd probably be all in favor of it. But, you know, I can't help but tell the truth as I see it. But in Maryland's case, the laws at the state level, their Constitution and their Human Rights Declaration, Civil Rights Declaration, they prohibit this type of abusive gerrymander. So I know some of you are thinking, oh gosh, is Tom Fitton ever going to stop about gerrymandering? Well, you know, it's how people are elected to Congress, and you can complain about Congress, but you know, one of the complaints about Congress is because this, you know, arises from the system that puts congressmen in power. And in places like Maryland and too many states, there's little political competition. And so there's a whole category of party members on either side who, you know, feel they can do anything, no matter what any other American says. You know, we think that, well, you know, there'll be pressure from the opposition. Well, you know, if there is no opposition in your state, there's no pressure. So that's the problem with gerrymandering. You know, and in the end, it's probably going to be even Steven. You know, the gerrymanders will probably basically cancel each other out, maybe a slight edge for the Republicans. Is it going to be enough to save the Republican majority in this year's elections? I have no idea. So isn't that interesting? So I don't know, you know, based on Judicial Watch's work here, the Democrats, it seems to me, should just give up. I mean, we beat this unlawful map before in court, so them doing the same thing again, I can't imagine the court's going to be very appreciative, right? Thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and like our video down below.